David Lowery of Ain't Them Bodies Saints. Did I get that right?
You absolutely did.
That's some heck of a title. And it's hot off the press for me because I just finished watching the film about 5 minutes ago. So I'm still trying to register it, but I'm delighted that David's here and he's giving us some time so we can chat about it. So first of all, the title.
The title is meant to evoke old folk songs, old, regional idiomatic language, and it has a musicality to it that I really like. And it predated the movie. It was a title or a phrase that I had just thought I had heard in a song, but it turns out I misheard the lyrics. And it was something that just stuck in my head, and I always thought it would be a good title for a movie. And as I was writing this movie, which is very much about consequence and people trying to make the right choice and do the right thing, it felt both thematically correct to use this title, and also it lent the film the qualities and the cadences of folk music, which is what I wanted the whole movie to feel like. And so, I feel that titles are a very important part of any film, that you understand the title in advance and you take that and carry it into the movie with you, and it affects how you process the movie. And so for me, a title like this one, even though it's strange and a mouthful and it's not like a line of dialogue, no one actually says it in the movie, but it affects how you watch the movie, just knowing the movie is titled this way. And that was really important to me.
And it's very poetic, obviously.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
very musical.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't Them Bodies Saints. Very
once
rhythmic.
you get it, it rolls off the tongue very nicely, and it's distinctly American because you can't translate ain't to any other language, and this is a very American story, so I felt that was helpful.
I came back from LA just a couple of days ago, and it was all the buzz at the LA Film Festival, and I was so sorry to have missed it. So when I got back to the island of Nantucket, I thought, I'm definitely going to catch up with it, so not knowing that you were going to be here anyway. But speaking of musicality, the music itself is extremely interesting in the film. It's minimalist, but it's very particular. It's folky, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's contemporary, but it's not. It's like ageless. I read the description that it takes place, the film, in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
but it could really take place like even today.
Yeah, we
in the
wanted,
South.
when you go to small towns in Texas,
Yeah.
like the ones where this takes
Or
place.
Georgia, where my brother lives.
Yeah, all across
yeah,
America,
yeah.
you can't really tell what time period it is
No,
because nothing
right.
changes.
Right.
And I really liked that. We decided to take that and run with it. And so we ostensibly set the movie in the 1970s, but there's very little that would
Right.
differentiate it from the 50s or the 40s. The cars are a little, are very 70s for the most part. Although there are some 1960s cars and a few 1950s cars as well. But it's hard to tell what time it takes place in. And I felt that kind of helped make it more universal, make the story more immediate by not having it be instantly dated. You know that it takes place in the past, and that's all you need to know. And other than that, it's a story whose, it's about characters whose time has passed. So it's okay. It's important for it to be set in the past, but I didn't want it to be a specific time period because I felt that would isolate it in a strange way.
And those are the ideas that you communicated to your composer.
Yeah.
Because it was, the music, again, is very specific. It has a very specific flavor and rhythm and palette.
Yeah, it's something that it's hard for me to just talk about music because I'm not a musician. I'm a frustrated piano player. I never actually quite got that good at it. But I love music, and it's really important to me, and I hate bad scores in film. Like, that's something that my first feature had almost no music in it whatsoever because I just wanted the movie to be able to carry itself and the form, the language of the film to carry itself. But with this film, I knew that music was going to be important to it. I wanted the whole thing to have a very musical, very rhythmic quality. And so when I sat down with Daniel Hart, the composer, I talked more about just the sounds I wanted, like the type of instruments, and less about the type of score. I didn't really talk about what type of music it needed to be, or what genre, or what era he should focus on. And what I love about Daniel is that he's able to just understand the heart of what I'm trying to do and the intent that is there, and translate that into music. And so he just took the script and the footage that was coming in as we were shooting and just figured out what sounds worked for that. And it is completely unique. I mean, it sounds like it has elements that are familiar, but what he did with it, with those elements, is something very new, and that's important to me. Like, as much as I love the fact that this film is a throwback and very old-fashioned and very antiquated, there is an element of modernity to it and urgency to it that is current, and that is both, you know, coming from the filmmaking itself, which on the one hand is very old-fashioned in how we shot it, but the editing and the pace of it is something that is, I don't want to say modern, but it's personal. It's the way I like to tell stories, and that's something that is unique, I hope, to some extent. And the music plays into that to a huge degree, and the music is something that is unlike any score I've ever heard, and that's exciting to me to have the uniquity of, you know, like the different flavors. Like, so you have this old-fashioned movie that has tints of something new here and there, and the music is one of the things that help provide that.
It's unlike anything I've ever heard, either, or two. But it's also distinctly American. There's something like contemporary, modern, very modernist American. I think if Martha Graham were alive, she would choreograph something to the music, because it's got that, and also the expanse, all the negative space that you use. You use a lot of negative cinematic spatial space that it entices viewers to try to fill in, like, visual subconscious narrative. So
I love leaving empty space in movies, like both visually and narratively.
And this does.
And
both cinematically as well as narratively.
It's fun for me to try to put the pieces together and to wonder what is going on in the world outside of the frame. And I did want this film to have, to some degree, a sense of, you know, the very strong individual images that have a lot of centricity to them, but at the same time, because I'm leaving so much of the story in the dark as to who the characters are, what they've done, what their relationships are, leaving the frame to suggest that as well as the narrative it's helpful, I think, to the audience, because it suggests that, you know, you are going to have to kind of fill in the spaces yourself, not just with the image, which doesn't always show you what you want to see or what you're expecting to see, but with a story which doesn't fill in the gaps that a traditional narrative might.
So for an independent film, it's delightful to watch something like that, and especially as you described it. I'm not going to say any more because we don't want to give away the ending, which itself to me was very unexpected. But I'm particularly delighted that your distributor, Weinstein Company, would pick up on this, because it's, you know, it's not your traditional Hollywood narrative style where, you know, everything is punctuated and the ending is something else without giving it away.
I mean, to the immense credit of the Weinsteins and to IFC, who are also putting it out here in the U.S., it's, you know, they are taking a chance with it, because it's unusual, and not just in that it might not have a cookie cutter plot or a cookie cutter ending, but also I was, you know, kind of just making it my own way, and I like things to feel very handmade, to feel very rough in times, and to feel very personal. I want it to look like, you know, it was made by hand, and that's not something that you normally see when you go to the movie theater. More so with independent film, perhaps, but even then, there's a messiness to this movie that was intentional, and that is something that I applaud, and I'm thankful to my distributors for having faith in that it will still reach audiences and that people will like it in spite of its inability, or my inability, to conform to what people might necessarily expect. But at the same time, I think it's a very classic story, and it's a very traditional story, and because it is playing by those rules, I think, or at least it was my hope, that would afford me the ability to sort of mess around in the margins of the storybook, so to speak.
Now here's, speaking of messing around, speaking of musicality, And the fact that you also edit.
Mhm.
You didn't edit the whole thing, but you had hands-on
Yeah.
it. Do you think your background in music helps you with that lucidity of improvisation? Like improvising with the story, the structure? Because I think you cannot edit without music. I mean, I just...
Yeah, I mean, music, like editing.
So the ability to
Mhm.
improvise
Yeah.
musically, even if, you know...
I mean, that's an interesting question. I've never
Yeah.
thought about it that way, but I do enjoy having a plan going in,
Yeah.
having sheet music, so to speak, and then figuring out the key and figuring out the pieces that we're going to use, and then just messing around and riffing off of that. And that's what we did on set. You know, we had the script, and everybody knew the script, and we had a very solid plan. But if someone had an idea or something they wanted to bring to the table, it was always welcomed, and as long as it was in the right key. And then, especially when it comes to editing, which is such a musical thing in its own right, because you're working with rhythm and you're working with tone in the same way that music works with rhythm and with a key. I definitely, you know, I throw the script away at that point. I don't ever look at it again once we start editing, and really just try to pay attention to what we have to work with and just make it work and on its own terms. And you always wind up with something pretty close to what you had originally intended to make, but through that process, by not being beholden to what's on paper, you're able to breathe life into it and find little magic serendipitous moments that you normally wouldn't have. And there's nothing better to me in the filmmaking process than finding things that surprise you. And so both on set and then again in the editing room, you know, if you thought that one scene would come after another one, but you try putting it before, you might find something amazing that you hadn't anticipated any time before that. And that's always really exciting to me. And that's something that, I mean, it's as close to, you know, jazz improv as I'll ever
Right.
get. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can talk about this for a long time, but you need to introduce your film downstairs.
Yeah, I think there's another screening.
So it was fantastic talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck. And the film is being released in the US in August
August 16th.
16th.
Yep.
So that's about 6 weeks.
Exactly.
Okay. We'll remind everyone
Great.
to
Please
go
do.
catch up with it
Yeah,
again.
it'll
Okay,
be in
great.
theaters.
Good to you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Until next time. Ciao.